I don't know. Say it with me. I don't know. Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. We're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. But sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
Never know.
This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Bob Pondillo and Cass Midgley.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 162 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast. I'm Cass Midgley. Today, Dr. Bob Pondillo and I interview Bonnie and Clyde. They wish to remain incognito. They are a middle-aged married couple in a southern state in the U.S., and their story is almost as amazing as their personalities. The following is an edited email Bonnie sent to me as a biography. Bonnie was a normal college kid who participated in normal college stuff. But her Southern Baptist upbringing tainted normal exploration and caused her to sink into a deep well of shame, fear, and dread. She thought she was too far gone for Jesus, until she participated in a walk to Emmaus when she was 23, and the prodigal daughter came out a complete radical Christian. She was ultra involved and ultra committed to Jesus. She even created a purity retreat for high school girls, which espoused the whole purity ring, marry Jesus, save your virginity thing. Bonnie and Clyde met in their late 20s when Clyde was fresh out of Bible school. He was a worship leader and a virgin who could slice and dice scripture, concordances, John Piper, and all the dead guys. He was a Calvinist, raised King James only Church of Christ, in a house of toxic masculinity. In Bible college, he became a part of the second wave Jesus movement of the 1990s and ended up in Kansas City at the House of Prayer with Mike Bickle. They married a year after meeting each other, following the prescribed orders to marry a spouse who loved Jesus more than the other. Fast forward to hell. Clyde became abusive, domineering, controlling, and mean. Yet they plastered on masks and continued to be in leadership in churches, pretending. When they moved back to Bonnie's small hometown, things got worse and it was harder to hide. Finally, Bonnie sought outside help. The intimate terrorism was unbearable. But that backfired. The reaction of the church, their Christian friends and family, was completely unhelpful and disheartening. She was afraid for her life. She separated from Clyde and filed for protective orders against him. On her own, Bonnie began deconstructing her faith. Listening to podcasts like this one, reading books, she gained personal agency for the first time in her life. She moved back in with Clyde because she didn't trust him to be alone with the two sons, and felt strong enough to weather the storms of Clyde's temperament and abusive behavior. Bonnie educated herself on Clyde's mental illness and learned how to manage someone with borderline personality disorder. She could see a good person underneath the symptoms. She knew a good guy was in there somewhere and wasn't quite ready to give up. Eventually, Clyde stopped going to church too. Bonnie kept her new humanism to herself and practiced asking Clyde questions and listening. Ironically, she applied 1 Peter chapter 3, normally a despised verse for oppressed women. It says, "Wives, submit to your husbands, so that even if they refuse to believe the word, they will be won over without words by the behavior of their wives." Unquote. but she spun it to win Clyde over to the truth. Over time, Clyde warmed to Bonnie's strong love, and Clyde started deconverting on his own. The anger, the combative behavior, and the judgmentalism faded. Today, he's an agnostic atheist, and his BPD symptoms are gone. It's hard to believe, but today they are mutually respectful, best friends, and deeply in love. I welcome your skepticism as you listen to their story. Bob and I were skeptical too. But of course, we'll let you decide if they persuade you or not. Because they're the only two ex-Christians they know in their community, it has bonded them together, and they actually enjoy the covert nature of their Bonnie and Clyde personas in their small southern town, surrounded by a Christian brainwashed community. Before we get into our talk with Bonnie and Clyde, let me read an email I received this week from Mary in California. She writes, I just listened to your most recent podcast, episode 161, the one explaining the prayer in the Oval Office, and wanted to let you know how much I appreciate your commentary. Your unique contribution is helping us distinguish the worldviews with which, as children, some of us were programmed. What I'm seeing more and more is that although I have broadened my horizons, I don't realize the factory-installed early childhood indoctrination default settings that undergird everything. You are, week by week, helping me distinguish that, and I'm deeply grateful. Some of your commentary that gets through to me best is when you rattle off those Bible verses that flow so easily and do a compare and contrast with your current understanding, and then show how the worldview influences attitudes. Even as in your own life, you minimize what I call the emotional meat hooks reaction to some of those verses. Keep those compare-contrast comments coming, please, especially in this political era. I'm trying to figure out what secular word to use that goes beyond contribution to describe your work, and all I can come up with is still ministry. And I hope it's not a trigger word for you. Minister, as I now use it, encompasses the whole person, psychological, intellectual, social, and spiritual in a broad sense. I see you as putting your pastoral instincts to work and bringing sanity to so many. And yes, complexity is the right way to describe how you bring in so many threads to weave a new cloth. It may be that the more you associate with people who are further away from toxic Christianity, the less you see or value your own unique ability to bridge the gap in understanding. I think the worldview/default setting arena is the only way to get effective conversations going. All my best to you and Bob. Pass my thanks on to him, too. You're making a huge difference for so many people. Your caring heart comes through. Looking forward to your next episode. Sincerely, Mary. We taped this conversation on July 29th, 2017. We interview people you don't know about a subject no one wants to talk about. We encourage people in the process of deconstructing their faith and help curb the loneliness that accompanies it. We think the world is a better place when more people live by sight, not by faith. Please subscribe to our podcast or leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Our show's available on most podcast platforms. Also, you can support us monetarily in two easy ways. You can pledge $1 per episode or more through Patreon. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or leave a lump sum donation through PayPal at our website, everyonesagnostic.com. The smallest contribution is greatly appreciated. Our opening monologue is an excerpt from a YouTube by Hank Green titled Towering Mountain of Ignorance. The music behind it is Never Know by Jack Johnson, and the segue music on this episode was created by the Barry Orchestra at barryorchestra.bandcamp.com. Thank you for listening, and be a yes-sayer to what is.
Hey, hi.
Hey, it's both of you. We're so happy.
Yeah, us too. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Nice to meet you too.
Shaking your hand here telephonically or something, electronically. Well,
You're so much more handsome. And, I didn't even know what you look like. I'm so happy. happy.
What is the tree in the background on the wall? What room is this?
It used to be a nursery, but now it's my office.
Okay.
I'm just too lazy to repaint.
That's good.
Okay. Well, good to have you. I'm over there.
I'm glad you have it. Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So we're gonna go by Bonnie and Clyde.
We are Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, I could tell by the bullet holes there. No, I kid. Absolutely. And where are you calling from again?
The South.
They're just going to go by the South.
Oh, the South.
They're not going to identify their town.
Maybe we're overestimating people's interest in us, but you never know.
Well, and I don't think it's wrong to overestimate, because for one thing, once this is out on the international, on the web, it's worldwide immediately, and it never goes away.
That's true.
And being anonymous gives us an opportunity to be actually a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, absolutely. So my sense is you are in the South somewhere, maybe a little town somewhere that I guess you feel like you have to be anonymous, because if people find out, it might not be good for you, huh?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, we already make everybody mad by not going to church. I mean, they're very concerned. Clyde, goes to different men's things in town, and sometimes he gets asked to pray, and he just does. Because it's like poker, right? You don't want to show anybody your hand.
Oh, I see. So even though you're atheist, not out, if somebody says, "Hey, do a little prayer there, Clyde," you stand up and do everything you have to do, but you don't believe it at all.
Yeah, there's a potential backlash. I think financially it might come because of where we're at, unfortunately.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So and we don't really know. We're giving them grace to be kind of where they're at, but we don't know if that would be reciprocal.
Oh,
Sure.
Oh,
wow.
Well, yeah, count on it. I think the atheist is always, and I guess you have some asshole atheists, but the atheist is always going to be, especially if you're ex-Christian.
Yeah.
If you're ex-Christian, you understand exactly what they're going through and why they believe what they believe, why they're acting the way they act. And so we have a lot of compassion for where they're at. They do not understand where we're at, and they're not going to have near the power to extend compassion to us. So I think you're wise.
Sad.
You know what? It's not your responsibility to put a fork or put an end to Christianity there in your little rural town. So David Silverman would say you guys are extending the life of Christianity by not coming out. But I think you got to do what's right for you in that area.
He's from the north.
Yeah.
He's from New York, so
exactly. I was just in Denver with a friend, and he's a progressive Christian, and he doesn't relate to how uptight I can get about pushing back against Christianity. And I said, dude, if it was up in your face, if it was up in your grill like it is in mine in the South, you'd be pushing back. You'd be a coward not to.
Yeah.
Right. But if you think about it, a little kid runs up to you and says, "Hey, Santa's going to bring me a pony for Christmas. It's not my job to say there's no Santa."
Right.
Yeah.
If they can't see reality yet, I go, "Oh, that's great. I hope you get one." And it's better to let it I deconverted over a long period of time, and so did you, Cass.
Yeah.
It was like poking holes in something till the air went out eventually.
Yeah.
In living beside these people, we would be better to be kind of Bonnie and Clyde about it and just open their eyes gradually by pointing out things, being gentle with them. My friends have noticed a few things on my social media and contacted me and said, "I want you to know that I'm feeling the same way you do, and I just can't let my grandma and my mom find out." So we have private messages. But there's a whole lot of people in their 30s and 40s like Clyde and I, and they just have to stay in the closet too.
Oh.
Yeah. What kind of stuff did you put up on your social media page that made people say, "Oh, Bonnie, I'm feeling the same way"? Like, what would you say?
Anything anti-Donald Trump to begin with.
Yeah.
Anything compassionate about homosexuality or transgender people.
Uh-huh.
I put one time, how about think for yourself?
Yeah.
That was
Ooh.
it.
And that's enough to make people go, holy cow, I've been thinking that too.
I put something on there about women having the right to be themselves. And it wasn't anything anti-male. It was like, ladies, do you understand that you have the right to say no? You can be your own person. And it was like kind of a cheerleader, hey, let's do this, girls. And I noticed that not one single churchy woman friend of mine liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It was too free.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That, I'm telling you, man, this is, for me, it just blows my mind. All this stuff. I just can't believe people behave this way.
Yeah.
Why? You just want to go, hey, and you want to shake them. Hey, you're okay. Be a person.
Join the human race.
Yeah, who you are. Why do you have to pretend like this?
So, Bonnie, it sounds like some of your girlfriends are under his eye.
Yes.
Under his eye.
Have you seen this?
Yeah. What was that? The
Handmaid's
Tale?
Yeah.
Under his eye.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Pokey in the eye.
Blessed be. All this code. You know, I mean, the women in that movie, and I think I've just got to episode 5, so you're starting to see the tension.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy the woman who, you know, has Ofglin.
Yeah, of Glenn.
You know,
yeah.
in her house. And she's like, actually, she wrote a book at one point in her life, and, you know, and she's kind of trying to emerge. And physically, she even looks like the wife on House of Cards. And so, that powerful woman thing, even in her, is trying to emerge, and they keep tamping it down.
Yeah, right.
And so, the marching in step of your girlfriends that would not like on Facebook the notion of, hey, think for yourself. They're marching in step. They're staying within their lane.
Wow.
Right.
Did you go to college, Bonnie?
Yes, I did.
Oh, there's your problem right there. There's your problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and I read books. Dang it.
Wow. How about you, Clyde? Are you a college guy or?
Yes, sir. I finished. I got my degree. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's go back to the story. We've gotten the show upside down here, but that's fine because I really enjoy the reality of now, like where you are in this small southern town and the tension there. That's something that's very relatable, I'm sure, to many listeners. But I was reading back over your email that you originally sent me, and for one thing, it was just amazing. You're just really articulate, and then the content itself was substantial. So I just wanted to talk to Clyde for a second because my journey sounds similar to yours, Clyde, because I ended up getting very involved in Kansas City, Mike Bickle. I used to get a tape of the month from the Morning Star Ministries. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's
yes,
funny.
Sir.
Oh, did you get that too?
I think we still have them.
I think we may have them somewhere. We gave them away or threw them away.
I think they're up in my attic, and my attic right now is probably 100 degrees, so hopefully they're melting. But like Rick Joyner, were you ever a big fan of Rick Joyner?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You don't have to call me sir. Are you?
We're from the South.
We're from the South. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
See, I'm from Oklahoma, but I don't know. I never picked up that Boy Scout gentlemanness. Well, speaking of Boy Scouts, that was in the news this week. But
Boy Scouts. Oh, geez.
God, that speech.
You just want to slap that guy.
I worked for Metro Christian Fellowship.
Yeah. I guess that's the Kansas City.
Yes, that's what it was before the International House of Prayer, IHOP deal.
Yeah. Bob gets a kick out of the IHOP thing. So.
That's right. Sorry.
So Mike Bickle and that whole crew, and I too was one who I actually got to a habit of fasting one day a week. I'd go 24 hours without food, and I would usually spend that day in solitude and in prayer.
Oh boy!
And it sounds like you too, Clyde, were one of those super Christians.
The Friday night watch. It was all night prayer and fasting.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I thought I was so holy and awesome.
It's the most boring club in the world, honey. Sorry.
Hey, God shows up. What's boring about that, Bonnie?
Oh, okay. I just moved to Colorado and partake in some candy, and God will visit me all the time too.
Wait, did you hear about me? That's what I did last week.
I'm so jealous.
I did. I literally went to Colorado and I got some edibles and You know, the sativa kind is the kind that's an upper, and we were hiking, and so I didn't want a downer. And I guess,
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
So did you see colors?
it was pretty cool. No, I just kind of got happy. It was just kind of a light. Everything's funny.
Oh, okay.
Like things. I'm not normally a person that laughs at everything, but I am when I'm high.
I love Colorado.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so here's a story. I've never been to a dispensary, so that in itself was almost like a tourist, experience. I go in and you kind of go to this little window that's like a movie theater box office, and you slip your ID under the window and talk through the little glass microphone area, and they put your name on a list, and you wait in a waiting room outside the actual store. And then when it's about 8 minutes went by, and there's about 10 people in the waiting room, and then so when you go in, you're escorted by a salesperson, and there's just nobody wandering around the store. I think maybe that's it. But it's also extreme customer service because I had his full attention, and I'm a complete novice at this stuff.
Right. So does he ask you so do you want a little kush, or do you want a little high, or a little low, or do you want an edible?
He just let me talk. I mean, he just like, what are you guys looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking for edibles and da-da-da-da. And he gave me the options. And we chose these, he called them gummy bears, but they're actually like gummy flowers. They're like little discs about the size of a quarter.
Yeah.
And they're literally gummy bears. I mean, they just taste just like a gummy bear. And they're 10 milligrams each. And there's 10 in this little canister. So there's 100 milligrams.
Yeah.
And 10 milligrams is a normal personal dose. As far as for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, that's probably the most you should take. I'm sorry to get on this tangent, but this is informational, right? I mean,
sure.
So
to me,
I bought CBD oil through internet mail before, and it was it was $35. So I was thinking, this is going to be $60.
Yeah.
$15.
Really?
For 100 milligrams of gummy bears. And it was Free Joint Friday.
Oh my gosh.
If you spend over $15, they throw in a free joint.
That's funny.
All right, that was a big detour, but it was fun.
That's right.
All right, so
It's fun.
We got a little bit of the radical super Christian of Clyde. One of the things you said in your email, Bonnie, that struck me was that your college years, you basically said I was a normal college student, but you felt, quote, too far gone for Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about that.
Growing up in a religious, condemning kind of culture, be a good girl, don't drink, don't party, don't do that stuff. There had been a lot of shame over some choices that most kids naturally make. Mm-hmm. And so in college, because of that shame, I struggled a lot with depression. In fact, I didn't know what I was going to do after college. I envisioned actually taking my grandfather's pistol and ending my life because I just was so depressed. And I didn't have parents that I could really talk to about with it. And it wasn't something that we were comfortable talking about. And
you're not supposed to be depressed.
No, but it goes back to a short detour. I went to one of those Baptist revivals when I was a kid, about 8, and they scared us about going to hell, and I went forward. And I got baptized then, supposedly saved. Then my grandparents helped build this new little church, and they wanted to have an Easter Sunday baptism and get me baptized with my grandfather, so I got baptized again. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'm good to go. And then I got invited. The fun things for churchy people to do is go to other churchy things in bigger towns.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit older, and I went with a boy that liked me and his parents to a Dave Reaver crusade. Do you know who he is?
Dave Reaver.
He's the man that was blown up with a grenade.
Yeah, and his face is disfigured. Yeah.
And he goes around and he does big crusades for people.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
And so, I was sitting there, and he was supposed to be funny, but he wasn't funny. And he told this long story about there was this man and his friend and his son went to a church service, and this father with the son had his friend, and he didn't want to be embarrassed. So when they did the, the altar call, and he was calling for people to come down and give their souls to Jesus, the little boy would try to get up and walk down to the altar, and his dad would grab him and tell him to sit down. You're embarrassing me. And he told how this little boy kept trying to get up and give his life to Jesus and sit down. You're embarrassing me. So he sat there, and then he said that kid never again felt the call of the gospel because he didn't come. And I was already saved, but I felt so moved by this man's story that I wanted to get up, but I was embarrassed. I wanted to go to the altar and get that hope, and I was embarrassed. And because I didn't, was convinced that I had missed my chance. And I thought, if I guess I'm going to hell, but I'm going to try to do the best I can anyhow. I guess I missed my boat. So that thought from like middle school all the way through college was like, I already missed my boat. I missed it. Yeah. I thought I was bad and I can't be good,
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One, when you're baptized, especially over and over again, I think what we're looking for is that it's supposed to be something magical that happens. I'm going to come up out of the water a new creation. The old is gone, the new is come. I'm going to probably have goosebumps because cold water does that to human skin. But you're looking for, when you get up out of there, you dry off and you go about your day. Like the next day you wake up and it's like, there's supposed to be something has changed, inside. Jesus is now running the levers of my heart and mind now. So I should feel changed. And sometimes it's disappointing. So you do it again and again. The second thing is that this is a very typical charlatan salesman pitch. And that is, in fact, my brother-in-law, he had some plumbing problems and it was going to be really expensive. Like a whole main line pulled up and replaced and stuff. Yeah. And the plumber that came and made the estimate, he said, that's going to be $8,000. And she said, well, thank you. I mean, his wife, thank you. We'll think about it. And he said, well, if I leave this premises, then that figure goes up to 14,000 or something like that. And there's this, it's just a typical way for salesmen to try to give you, it's a con to make you think that this is the moment. And when this moment passes, it's over. And that's what that preacher was saying. That preacher was saying that boy, when the Holy Spirit, when the dove lands on you, you better respond because it ain't going to come back.
Right.
And that's a very daunting and haunting thing, especially for a child.
Yes.
So you had to live with this shame and fear and dread and guilt and all that from your junior high school days through college.
She said.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Wow. Now, today, in a modern sense or in a natural sense, do you literally struggle with depression, or was it circumstantial?
Not anymore. Not at all.
All right, you're not medicated?
So it's situational. No. It was a situational depression.
Yeah. And it completely, I think we could say, completely created by this narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's why we are so concerned about our kids not participating in like vacation Bible school or going to camp with church kids, even though their friends go. We make excuses, but we don't want them to get infected with that disease of self-hatred.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. That's a good way of putting it, a disease of self-hatred.
Yeah, yes. And just also the disease of wanting or feeling like God is going to be disappointed in me. There's so many stakes. I mean, we haven't even got to heaven and hell.
Yeah.
Right.
The stakes are high for you to get this right. And I think, might I ask, maybe both of you, it's two people like yourselves, and I'm just going to use the adjective driven, because you both were driven. I think in Bonnie, your case, you were driven you had a desire to do good and do the right thing and make right choices and probably please people.
Correct.
And then Clyde, you wanted to be, the star quarterback of God's football team.
Yep. Most definitely.
Omaha.
So And the thing is those are virtues that you're born with, you came into the world with, and they can obviously overtake a person because they end up being just completely driven by people pleasing, and it's coming from a place of insecurity rather than security. Yeah. But I don't know. Just this all is so complicated by religion. These are natural things that humans are going to have to undergo as just natural maturation process.
Right. Well, Clyde wasn't born with it. I mean, he was born as a tabula rasa, as they say, sort of just a guy, just a person. Yeah. And then the community and the society culture in which he lived kind of turned him into.
Well, Clyde, would you say that you were? I mean, what kind of external pressures to be masculine did you experience?
Well, I remember I grew up Church of Christ, and it's baptism that saves you. That's what they believe. Sure. They basically teach that, and they say you must be dunked, and then you can know that you are good. So I had this ethereal belief about going under the water and hearing Jesus talk, and maybe the blood comes over me and I'm good. I had this awesome experience. Well, before I get baptized at, I guess, 16 or 15, the preacher comes to me and says, nothing's going to happen, right? And I looked at him like, what?
What?
Because nothing is really, you're not going to hear Jesus. And we never had this conversation before. He just, I guess, already knew that that's what he had.
Yeah, he was preparing you for reality.
Yeah, I had this huge down. I was like, what? And then we went, I still thought, well, maybe he's lying. Maybe something's actually going to happen when I hit the water, and I'm going to be, go to this other planet, and God's going to be there, and he's going to say, you are my son, and I am well pleased. And I came out of the water, and I was wet.
Yeah.
I'm wet.
Tell them about your dad's sermons.
Oh, your dad's a preacher?
Well, I grew up King James only, Church of Christ.
Right. Oh, so they rotate?
New Testament only,
Yes.
and so we rotated, uncles rotated, and it was a family church, King James only, Church of Christ, Campbellites type theology, and divorce happened, and when I was, I guess, 12 or so, and then I found this box. I went with mom, of course, because dad was abusive and the whole thing, and let's split our personalities, act like this, and not at home act differently. And so I found this huge box of spiral notebooks in my mom's. This is really sad. Like in my mom's writing, all these sermons, and it's just me and my mom, and I was just a young kid. I said, "Mom, what's all this?" It was literally hundreds of little spiral notebooks in her writing, and she said, "Well, those are my Bible studies." And so I said, "No, these aren't Bible studies. This is something else." And she just brushed it off. Years later, when I guess she understood what was going on, I could take what she was going to say. She said, "Your dad would not go and take us to church. He threatened to not go to church unless I wrote the sermons that he would preach."
What?
He also threatened a divorce and to leave us. And so I wrote the sermons, and no one knew. And I thought, wow, how many times he would give a good sermon,
and that was your mom,
and everybody would say, "Thank you. Wow, that was great. That was great." And the whole time my mom is the one that
Did it.
wrote the sermons.
And women in the Church of Christ have to be quiet and make good casseroles, and that's it.
Yeah. Wow.
Sounds like Lutherans.
That's a story right there.
Yeah, that's a great story.
So your parents, Clyde, they did in fact divorce when you were 12, you said?
Yeah, about 7th or 8th grade or so. And it's funny, Mom, we went to a liberal Church of Christ, and the elder's wife said, "I can't say that you're not going to go to hell." And Mom was like dealing with depression, watching Guiding Light reruns, and like As the World Turns. It's just me and her, and I'm like her substitute husband. I totally loved my mom and didn't understand what she was going through. And then one of the elders' wives, leaders, said, "You know what? I can't really say you're not going to go to hell
because of the divorce."
Because of the divorce, yeah, divorce is a sin, and I thought, and then I become the husband for my mom. I'm trying to help her deal with her depression, and it's like,
man, that would do it for me.
Are you an only child?
No, there's a couple of others.
They're older and they were already gone.
They're already gone.
The thing of it is, I think people don't realize that if a woman without her own agency, who's never had her own agency, is probably incapable of taking care of herself once something like divorce or death happens.
Yep.
And so I could be very frustrated with his mother because she did. She turned to him and made him her husband. He checked the mailbox. He would take care of her the way a husband should take care of a wife. But he also didn't go out with friends in high school. He stayed home because his mom was sad. He didn't have girlfriends. He really became her emotional person. And in some ways, I'm sure that affected us later on down the road. Yeah. And it's just a sad thing because my heart is you can go to church all you want, love Bible, but is it damaging your kids and you to the point where you can't function when you feel so helpless?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You feel so freaking helpless, you know?
Sure.
Because that, like you say, it makes you infantile.
Yeah, it keeps you in perpetual state of immaturity and ineptitude and socially and culturally.
So then the only role model you had for masculinity or being a man, whatever the hell that means these days, but was your dad then, right, Clyde? And he was an abusive guy.
Yeah, it was confusion. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But Clyde, your dad, he's still alive?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any relationship with him?
Oh, it's one of them dads that you check in once a year. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Good. How you doing? I'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah,
I get that.
Pretty detached.
Yeah.
To the max.
Did he remarry?
No.
Huh.
He lives in a house like a troll.
Very interesting. That's a whole other, it's very interesting. And I need to, I feel like I need to talk to him more, but he's by himself in a little, even smaller town than we're in. And
well, he's probably sleeping in the bed that he made, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And the one room, and it's only air conditioned in one room kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hermit, a definite hermit situation.
Well, you abuse people and you don't repent, you don't turn from that way. Guess where you end up?
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't go to church anymore, but he does read the Bible.
Yeah. So good for him.
I don't know. That doesn't sound very good.
Well, I'd like for him to put a little bit more effort into his relationships instead of expecting everyone to come to him. He's kind of have to lay in he really doesn't see any point in loving his kids. And so I don't know.
But it's weird. I do feel compassion, and I do want to now that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, here's some tools for understanding and compassion. He has so much self-hatred that he doesn't have any love for you or anybody else.
That's true.
He doesn't have anything to give.
Right.
In a sense, when you're in hospital bed for weeks, you have entropy or leg muscle atrophy.
Yeah.
He is completely love atrophied. He can't get out of bed. He can't lift a finger to give you anything that you deserve and need as his son. So it doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it pretty or anything, but it does give us some tools to say he's a really broken man.
Beware.
Yeah.
And don't expect anything from him.
Right. What is that? Expectations. I love there's some quote about expectations. If you don't expect anything from anybody, you can't be disappointed.
Yeah.
He hated his dad and loved his mom, but somehow the message that this is how it works stuck anyway.
So then you brought that to your marriage, I would guess.
Yeah, the confusion of grace and law. I was just like, where am I supposed to be strong? Where am I supposed to be weak? And I love this person, Bonnie, and I still do, even more today. But it's just, I was just confused, and therein the abuse came.
Oh wow!
And
when you say abuse, what kind of abuse? Just verbal, or did you strike her, or something terrible? Or
it's mostly verbal. We did have some physical altercations. They weren't too serious, but mostly verbal, which is probably the worst. And I regret them the most, and I can't ever take that back. But, it's so much better today. It's so much better.
Yeah,
So what makes it better? Do you see each other as equals, or was the abuse a way for you to elevate yourself over her to make sure? Because obviously we can tell that Bonnie is a powerful woman. And if you're going to be the head of the household, then you're going to have to maybe climb off her shoulders to get there.
It really is my anger towards myself and the whole ideology of religion.
Oh, self-hatred, yeah.
Self-hatred, yeah. And she had so much patience for it that it drew me away into some of the things she was listening to, like y'all. She was listening to y'all's podcast and some other stuff, Jordan Peterson, his videos, and some other areas of open-mindedness, just, of freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bonnie, at one point in the email you sent me, you called it intimate terrorism.
It's like you had to keep your face smiley and churchy on the outside, but I never knew what mood he was going to be in. I never knew what would set him off. And there was absolutely zero way to change the course. I had to just endure it. And it could be something as simple as something misplaced, or somebody not even in our house got something new, or one of my memories is that he had been with another closed-minded Christian man who said he never had to iron his own shirts. Mm-hmm. So, and then Clyde came home angry and ranted on and on for hours about why I didn't do that. Everything was comparison. Mm-hmm. Everything, he was getting shortchanged by everything. The main thing he always complained about, and it was, I'm not getting enough respect or attention. Mm-hmm. You don't honor me. You don't take care of me. You like your family more. And I would just endure it. At first, I took it personally, and I felt every blow. And then I started doing my own research and trying to dig myself out, and I got educated by going online and reading about the symptoms of abuse, and then figuring out, hey, this is not him trying to be a mean person. He is Jekyll and Hyde. He really is a good person, but there's a total separate person that lives there too, and that's caused by splitting, by stress, by shame. And then I began to see him, this is a sort of like an epileptic seizure. It's like an emotional seizure, and I could distance myself from his words, and they didn't sting me because I could see his pain.
Wow. Okay, there's two things going on that just came up. I'm a big fan of David Rico, and I've done on the show, I've read the 32 Declarations of Healthy Adulthood. Yeah. And two things come up. One, whenever Clyde was abusive, and the way that, Bonnie, you interpreted it was like a disease that he had, like an epileptic seizure, and you could have compassion. And there is one of the quotes is, "Until I see another person's behavior with compassion, I have not understood it."
Right.
And it sounds like you found, here's what we've got to do as people in relationships. Our relationships, the people in our lives, are human, they're flawed, and they're going to fuck up. And we're either going to take that personal, 1, 2, be super offended, 3, resent them, 4, let that drive a wedge in our relationship, and the next thing you know, we're not even in a relationship.
Right.
So in order for us to be tough-skinned people and true lovers of each other and what it means to be human, I am so respectful, Bonnie, that you went out and educated yourself. You gave yourself some tools to love your own husband, to find a way, because the other alternative is the door.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, how much of the door were you looking at, or were you still a Christian enough to say, I can't divorce?
I wanted that door so bad. I wanted out. And things kind of happened in a way where that wasn't a quick exit, and it was a little bit more complicated than I wanted. I wanted to get gone. One older Christian man kind of stepped in and as a father mentor figure to Clyde at the right time. Now, I think he's a nutcase in real life, but it worked. I was able to call him whenever the flare-ups or the splitting would happen, and he would talk him down. At the time, that's what we could do to kind of learn how to control emotions. Yeah, it took about 2 years, and slowly the outbursts and the incidents would, they got less frequent and less. He was able to catch himself. You know what I'm saying? He would see his own he could catch his thoughts and see where he was going off the rails, where at first he didn't see the rails.
That's
at
beautiful.
all.
That's self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the other things that Rico said was, I accept that I may never feel I am receiving or have received all the attention I seek.
Oh.
Right.
So you release others from that black hole of needs, as far as you've got this attention deficit. And I don't mean that in an ADD way, but just like you didn't get the affirmation from your father. He was abusive. In fact, you got the opposite.
Right.
So all of us kids, we're already, I'm telling you, man, right out of the womb, we're insecure. And especially when you get puberty and your body's changing, you're in this real awkward looking body and voice inflection and your knees hurt and you get into this environment of school to where everybody is just compare, like she was describing the church environment. The church just takes that and puts it on nitrous oxide. So this comparison, this insecurity, we're already insecure and desperate for somebody to say, you are a wonderful person. I'm so proud of you. You've got what it takes. You look great today. You're talented. I like the way you handled that situation. Just praise. I mean, we are sponges of praise. Yeah. And when you don't get it, that's a deficit. When you get the opposite, you're stupid. You're a failure. You fucked up. You're ugly.
Yeah.
And maybe even a slap across the face or, some kind of, you can destroy the human spirit. And I think what we're saying about not only just women, what Bonnie was saying about women as far as you're going to enter the world inept. You're going to enter the world completely unqualified and unskilled at navigating and creating a path for yourself that's thriving and happy.
So encouragement is important, not putting a person down,
Exactly. And Christianity 101 is you are broken and in need of a savior. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Can I ask you guys, have you heard of Brene Brown?
Sure. Yeah, vulnerability and...
Well, her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, was like a key component to me not resting my value upon what Clyde thought of me.
There you go.
It was truly life-changing. Some of the messages are, be courageous with your life so others will be courageous too. Don't trade your authenticity for acceptance. She speaks about how the sense of shame that people feel is the number one cause of why people's lives fall apart. They allow shame to, beat them down, and we need to live a wholehearted life with our flaws, with our quirks, our problems, and embrace completely every aspect of ourselves and be okay with not being perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is like, you know what? Maybe I have crazy curly hair. Maybe I don't weigh 110 pounds, So what?
Yeah.
At least I'm fun, right, honey?
She is fun.
It could be, it's very counterintuitive when you think about it, because it feels like everybody else is fine, but I'm the one everyone's out of step but Johnny, and I'm Johnny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, to have somebody tell you that and reassure you, it's okay, man. We're all messed up. We're all fucked up.
Yeah.
We'll be fine though. Let's go. We're good. There's good in us. Let's go forward. Those kind of things. Yeah, that's exceptional. Very important.
Yeah, Brene Brown's book, and I went and saw her speak at Vanderbilt Live, I think last year, my wife and I. That's some good stuff. And I just want to highlight the fact that she considers herself Christian. Like, she is somewhat religious, highly educated, PhD, and a very healthy version of Christianity. Obviously, she has to smorgasbord, she has to cherry pick the scriptures that she can embrace and what she can't. But yeah, that's saying yes to yourself. I mean, that's just to what it means to be Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So let me ask you about your family, Bonnie. What kind of your parents still together? Was it a healthy home? Yeah,
they're still together now. They live in the same town with us. My mother is a professional. She's a kind of a strong personality. Not especially like huggy, kissy, sweetie, but really strong leader as like education. And so she was a strong person in my life. My dad's a sweetheart, country boy, that kind of guy. I have siblings, just a pretty normalish growing up experience. And, that's where I came from.
So, Clyde, did you ever resent or were jealous of her family?
Maybe a little bit, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I remember flare-ups would often happen right before we were going to see my family. And that was a stressful time for him for some reason.
But you could see the same dysfunction within, with religion. How you just
there was a little bit of dysfunction there. Yeah, there was. But it was
Well, I guess I thought maybe something, I can't remember what it was that you said, but something made me think that because Clyde, you were kind of forced to play a role in your mom's life that was maybe not necessarily the most appropriate, type thing. And I understand my father died when I was 17. I'm the only son. I'm the baby, so my 3 sisters were already moved out, and it was just me and Mom, and she kind of did look for. To this day, I went home back in May of 2017 to be with my mother on Mother's Day, and we just kind of hung out. We got in the car and went on Sunday drives and just hung out. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of times where she mistook me for her deceased husband,
She said,
and she's 89, so there's a little bit of senility there. But there was one. It's Oedipus complex or whatever else. It's complicated.
Yeah.
But especially when, and I could say this of my mother as well, was never really empowered, never really given the girding and the reinforcement of praise. In fact, she always felt like a disappointment. And I think this is compounded in Bonnie's story, in that in college or whatever else, in this phrase, too far gone for Jesus, that you can feel your constant disappointment, not only to your parents, but to God.
I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember whenever it was just my mom and I for about 4 years or 5 years, and that was it. And I didn't really understand, being an 8th grader, 9th, 10th, high school, and just the 2 of us. And I remember we would go to a town to go eat, and where do you want to eat? I don't know. Where do you want to eat? Well, let's go eat over here. I don't know. You want to eat over here? And we would end up at a place that neither one of us wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And we were like, why are we here?
2 people without agency, blind leading the blind.
Oh, man. Maybe when I was younger, I can't remember, but there's a point where, you have to say, well, I guess what I'm saying is, boy, you guys have a very high threshold of pain. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You can tolerate this type of psychological pain much better than I can. Yeah. Because I'd be like, fuck you, I'm out. I'm out of here. This is craziness. You can't do that. No, you can't do that to people. Yeah. That type of stuff. And it's amazing how you just hang in and hang it. That is some fucking power. There's some power there,
Well, there's always, 2 routes. And every single book I read about abuse was like, you just need to pack your crap and get out. Nobody gave me any hope that this could be saved. And so I didn't have any. Mm-hmm. What I was trying to be was an uninteresting target because my kids were involved. And so I wanted to I just walked on eggshells and made myself stronger, thinking eventually I'll get out. But what surprised me, him turning towards me and being able to admit, yes, admitting to other family members, yes, it was me. I was abusive. And yes, all those things that Casey said that she asked for help for, she actually really needed help, and I got in the way, and I was confused. And so that started turning my heart, going, wait a minute, we're not on opposite sides of this anymore. We're both seeing the same problem. And so I saw my friend, the guy I married, behind all that. I was like, well, maybe we just need to work on it, and it somehow, to this day, it seems to be the thing that we did, and it worked so far.
Yes, it has. That's great. What's amazing is you stopped being little children and you started being adults and saying, we got a problem and we're going to face this. And kudos to both of you.
Really?
It's got to be hard for Clyde, but for both of you guys, man, that's good work. That's hard work, but that's good work.
Yeah.
It's good on you. Good on you. Absolutely.
Well, let me just play the role of a cynic or a skeptic here.
Sure.
because I am really, really interested in being, I wish I could get to know you both. Because if what you're saying is true, and that's why I'm saying I'm playing the role of the skeptic here. If what you're saying is true, and what I mean by true is, so the cynic is going to say, all right, I sense that Bonnie is a powerful woman and educated and smart and knows, herself and is making decisions for herself. But the fact that she's still married to not a currently abusive husband, but historically abusive, is cowardice on her part, or it is not really fully having the guts to pull the trigger or whatever. And she's compromised. She's settled. She could probably do better out there. And this is poignant for me because I think about it for myself. Not that I was ever abusive, but that these. Can I ask how old you guys are?
I'm 39 plus tax.
Okay.
He is
40.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So these midlife choices, and how old were you when you guys started dating?
27.
Mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's pretty healthy. If I thought you met in Sunday school and God told you to get married, that was going to make it even worse. But
we kind of thought that, even though we were older, we thought it was a God appointment more than a romance, really.
Yeah. All right.
We were under that whole, that guy that the I Kiss Dating Goodbye thing. Yeah. That was part of,
Yeah, he has since repented for that book. Did you know that? Good
thing. He should.
Yeah, it's one of the few Christian authors that actually has come back and said I was wrong.
Tell what is this now? I don't know this.
I Kissed Dating Goodbye. I don't remember the guy's name.
Joshua Harris.
Oh, Josh Harris, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal in the Christian movement. It was a big bestseller in Christian bookstores. I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and it kind of a part of the courtship movement, probably. I don't know.
But, you don't hold hands. There's a whole thing about it's like a old fashioned kind of it's awful.
I just saw a couple of months ago where he on Twitter or some public forum he said I'm sorry, I was wrong. The book was wrong. And
good.
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Anyway, my point about skepticism is that, and the reason I want to meet you and to see how this actually works is, now I'm going to flip sides and be like the optimist here and say, one of the psychologists that I've been reading lately, he says that marriage is a crucible for making you a better human being.
Yeah.
And that the door, the escape hatch, is a way out from you facing some feedback that would be personally developmental for you to face and to grow up. And so by, pulling the escape hatch, you're actually just going to roll right out into the world with the same problems, and you're going to run into the same problems with the next person you're with. So stay in the room with difference. Stay in the room with this feedback from somebody who, at least to the level that they best can, are loving you within the capacity of their ability to do so at this stage of their mental health. They are loving you. If you can stay in the room with that and maybe listen and maybe take in. Now, we're far from letting it be shameful. Like, no, don't receive any shame from hearing feedback. But is there something that maybe you could tweak in your life? And this guy's theory is that if you'll stay in the room, that marriage is the best crucible for making you the most powerful and healthy person that you can be. And so there's what I mean by the positive spin is you stayed in, and what you're experiencing now is really the payoff. Am I right?
You're correct. When I first met him, Clyde, I had a picture because I kind of found out about his dynamics at home and with his family, and how he missed out on a father in the most important years of being a kid, and always just having mom, just mom. And I had this, it's not a spiritual vision, it's kind of like an imagination thing. I saw him standing in a baseball field after a game and searching the stands for a father.
Oh.
And then I pictured myself at the same age walking up and just standing with him, holding his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like right when we first met, I had that kind of picture in my soul. I said, this guy searching for a dad, and I'm going to hold his hand because I see the brokenness and sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So in between the horrific, kind of crazy, scary, gut-wrenching abuse, there were moments when he'd break down and he looked like a little kid, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I knew I had to protect myself, but I also knew that if he could just put a little bit more effort into understanding his own issues, that we would work it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd figure it out together.
Yes, yeah. No, I'm telling you, I mean, I could understand why Bonnie stayed, because investment. She was invested in Clyde.
Yeah.
She had children. Mm-hmm. She was invested in them as well. Oh,
well, yeah.
It makes sense. And then just trying to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And then this poignant story about seeing him as a broken person, but want to help, but didn't want to run away, wanted to help him, had compassion for this broken person. I mean,
because I loved him.
Yeah.
I loved him.
You, Clyde, you got a good one there. That's a good
yes,
person.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was going to say one other point about pain and life and struggle, and it's also related to Brene Brown. She says, we are all hardwired for suffering, and we cannot save each other from suffering. Mm-hmm. We got to walk our own road. She says, though, we can be like a midwife who sits in the corner and says, push. Mm-hmm. Oh. And that idea of standing by someone who's in pain and just being there and saying, you can do it. That's usually all people need sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's one thing I appreciated about the image of you being on the baseball field just holding his hand, as opposed to an enabler or maybe who's somebody in a codependent way. I can get my validation, my life meaning, and my identity by being, by his side.
Right.
And that's still a robbery of agency.
But, I mean, I could see Bonnie saying, well, not really, but I could see a person saying, what? How dare you? Fuck you. You're a prick. Mm-hmm. I'm out of here.
Of course,
because, because they take it so, how dare you do, because you can't do that to a person.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mock that attitude.
No, I wouldn't.
Because women have the right to get the fuck out.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. But
hey, I said all that stuff, and I called the police, and I'm sorry I'm talking to you loud, and I called the police. I had a protective order. I mean, I did get tough on him. I think that's when he started respecting me.
Mm-hmm. Have y'all seen the cartoon movie Inside Out?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the memories? Okay,
yeah.
So spoiler alert, if you haven't heard it, turn it off.
I'm sure.
Okay, but there's a point where Joy is like trying to make her happy, and like, you need to just be joyful, and then there's this back and forth like hypocrisy to sadness, and once she just says, okay, sadness, and she can see that sadness has to really take hold of the heart, and there has to be tears.
Right.
That's I cried, and even talking about that point, y'all know what I'm talking about. Whenever the doll goes over the cliff, or whatever, I remember, but. Yeah. And then their sadness comes in. That's it. It's a point of no return. Like, once you see someone that has sadness with you, it's okay to come into that area. It's like,
yeah, she's
it. You're it. Thank you.
The thing about being a woman in the church, and I get all whenever I think about the lessons that we were taught about how to deal with our husbands. They would say that the man is the head of the household, but they really put it back on the woman, saying, yeah, but if he's tempted to pornography, it's your fault. If he's not feeling like a man, you didn't praise him enough, you're not serving him hard enough. It puts us as freaking doormats. And it teaches us you didn't screw him enough or whatever. And that whole attitude towards women, like whenever I would email somebody panicking, hey, I need help. I don't know if I should tell anybody about my husband because I don't want to disrespect him. I don't want to bring him shame, but I need help in my marriage. I'm scared to death. These women would say, just pray to the Lord. Don't bring any shame on your husband. Nobody would help me. Mm-hmm. Because I needed to submit harder.
Yeah.
And all that submitting taught, because I tried it. I tried to do the apron thing, the Betty Crocker thing. I mean, I really tried to be that wife, and it just made him hate me more.
Yeah.
Because his mom was a doormat, and so there was nothing to respect. So when I stood up, and this is going to make you laugh, one day I was listening to James Dobson, because guess what? I used to listen to all that crap.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't believe I was that. That was a total,
No, there's some good stuff there at the time.
Yeah.
But one day he was talking about abuse, and he said, women, did you know that you can say no to your husband? And a bell went off in my head. That's the moment I started getting out of this.
Yeah.
I can say no. So then I started seeking out tiny bits of agency. And at first it made Clyde mad. Mm-hmm. But the more I rose up with dignity and defending my own dignity and resisting the abuse, it got worse until he saw me as an equal.
Mm. Wow.
And I'm telling you, the lie that they tell women is to submit harder and be nicer only makes abuse worse in most cases.
I mean, it's like embracing the full human experience when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, of course you have the right to be equal. Of course you have the right to health care. Of course. Right. Why do people... You just want to... I understand your feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think it's interesting that all you needed was permission, even from, in this case, Dobson. Like,
right.
Advice from a horse's ass, but
right.
Also, Bob, you were saying earlier that marriage itself has built-in difficulties to escaping. Like, it's not an easy leave. Had it been easy, I think she probably would have been gone. But the kids, complications of what do we do with the house? What do we do with the cars?
And if you really love the person, too.
Well, of course.
All those things.
But there's a ton of battered women out there that love their husbands.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but every one of them would say, he came to me afterward in tears.
Yeah, so it's okay now.
And that is what elongated their abuse. Yeah. So we are on a razor's edge here in this conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, I identify what you're saying, because he did that too. We split up.
I think once I was a leader in the church, and once I said, you know what, this is bullshit.
What, your behavior?
My behavior. And I actually was telling the leadership, we need to do this thing on marriage for myself.
Yeah.
And let's do a thing on marriage. And I was trying to get help, trying to find answers, trying to have compassion or find it. And it was rejected. And when you don't want to be around the mess because the mess gets on you, that's kind of what happened with us. And I drifted over to just listening to her and seeing her pain. I went, all this stuff is bullshit. We're getting free. And then life opened up to me oh my God.
Yeah.
We started listening to all this different music that we couldn't listen to because we were Christians.
I totally understand.
Man.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so angry. And so you go through the anger phase.
Yep.
You got to go through it. Let them go through the anger phase, I guess. And I'm still kind of off the anger phase right now with deconversion. We went to a humongous music festival, and I cannot believe I missed all of this because it was worldly. It was sinful.
Yeah, worldly.
No more.
And back to your question about if there are women who are in an abusive relationship, I don't recommend staying.
Yeah.
I'll tell you straight up that I filed my divorce papers, and he filed his divorce papers. I never canceled them. I trust him, and every year I get more and more trustful, but, I think he's fine, but I trust him right now, but I understand that razor's edge.
Yeah.
And my advice would be you go ahead and have a safety plan and leave and let a miracle stop you that's for real, because he apologized 100 times.
Yeah.
I went through the whole bounce back thing. I just can't believe we beat the odds, and it's not typical.
Yeah.
It is not typical.
So how long, months or years, would you guys say that you have been in a healthy, mutually respectful relationship?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
But ever since we left completely the church.
Yeah, yeah. But 5 to 3 years. The last 3 have been great. The first few years were kind of better. And now it's like we're best friends.
I think last year I took the kids to like our local church, whatever that I was a leader in, just kind of, it was during Easter, and I was like, oh, well, we got to teach them the Bible and all that. Of course, Bonnie didn't go, and I went alone with them, and there was nothing offered. And I watched what they were telling the my kids, and I was like, there's nothing here. And that was it.
So I guess we should backtrack. So I started deconverting privately on my own, and I didn't say anything. I would just ask a question once in a while. So what do you think that the Bible's literal? What about this scripture? And he was still listening to all of that stuff. Sermons on John Piper. He was reading all that stuff. And he would say, how come you don't pray with the kids? Or how come you don't do Bible study with the kids? I'm like, well, I don't know. You're so good at it, you know? And I would just, and then like he would say, you don't even pray or go to church anymore. I'm like, I know. I just was chill, and I kept it myself. And sometimes he'd come up and, well, what about this? And slowly, like peeling layers off something. I never had to argue with him. I just let they say in the Bible to women, let your conduct, bring a man to the Lord, right? By you're pure. And I didn't have to try to be good. I really wanted to be good even without Jesus. Mm-hmm. And actually I felt more free to love him. Another bad thing about Christianity is there's the us versus them. Right. And when you let go of that, you see all humanity is just like you. And I could see him. He's just another human that's hurting like me. So that helped me just be super chill and just wait it out. And before I knew it, he was like, I've been listening to Cass and Bob. He started listening to Dawkins, started listening to Hitchin. He got all into it. And now he's like, I'm more radical than you. And I said, yes.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is we sit here listening to stories, the same stories that not the same, but very similar stories all the time. And there's always that moment where those who are telling us the stories come to that, I'm free, that sense of freedom when you put down this strange set of beliefs that have been just screwing you up, just hurting you. Right. And it's good to hear that.
It's like being under a spell and then waking up. Yeah. You fully buy in, and when you're out, you're going, what the hell was that?
What else were you going to say, Bob?
I was just going to also ask about your kids.
We have currently 4 children in our household.
Okay.
Not all of them are biologically ours. The 2 younger ones right now are ours, and they're both boys.
Okay.
What's the story with the 2 older?
The oldest one, we just got CPS custody over 2 days ago.
Foster?
Not really foster, but CPS placement, because she's been living with us for a year because her grandmother who raised her is close to death with cancer.
Oh.
So she's kind of orphaned.
Kind of, yes. And we kind of adopted... To make a long story short, we live closer to the school where she goes, and so when Grandma was sick and going to get treatment, we would just keep her with us. And for a whole year, she's been partially our daughter. Then something happened with her biological mother recently, and CPS just gave us custody, so we have a new child, basically. And I tell you this, she's a teenager, but if I had to go to heaven or wherever babies come from before time, if I could have picked a daughter, I would have picked this girl.
Oh, how sweet. So what are how are you raising them? What are you doing? How do you make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to them?
Well, we had a conversation, and I call it mommy school. And I call the boys in, and I say, listen here. Okay, I tell them that story. I think it was off your podcast where somebody talked about the birds in the cage, looking out the window, seeing the free birds and thinking there was something wrong with them. Yeah. And the whole idea of like you give somebody medicine that makes you sick, so you need more medicine. And that's what those people who do Vacation Bible School are doing, but they don't mean to. And they're trying to tell you that you're bad and you're broken and you're no good without God, and they don't know any better. But that's not true. You're not going to hell. You're not a sinner. You're fine. But when you hear them say that, put your blinders on and just know that they don't know any better. Mm-hmm. I say, when Mama says something about Jesus, just nod your head. Don't show them your cards. And we listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff about science. We believe in evolution. We teach our kids about, how old the earth is completely. We just don't show them our cards. we just like, that's none of their business anyway. We have our little private little home where all the kids are free to think and do. And I even say, if you want to grow up and be a believer in something, that's fine. But we're going to just, no shame right now, boys. No shame.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Man, I'm telling you, you're all right. What a mom. Yeah, mommy school.
Well, I think the way Clyde described it, he said that the whole world opened up to him. We were talking about this freedom that that we experience, and it is, or coming out from under a spell. It's just a powerful, powerful thing.
Yeah.
I think what happens, and especially in light of this coming out from under a spell, anytime that we have a construct in our brain that's the scaffolding for a perspective or a paradigm through which we see the world that turns out to be skewed or false or what is it when what happens to water, like you stick your hand down in the water and it looks like your arm's bent.
Yeah.
What's that called?
Like an optical illusion.
Distortion?
Or some kind.
Yeah.
Distortion or something.
Yeah.
But so what happens is you find yourself, especially as you come out from a delusion and you start figuring out that this lens or this paradigm, this perspective, this worldview that I've applied to my life all this time is flawed. And you get clues like going back for Easter and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is so empty." Or what the other clue was for Clyde that I thought was poignant was when he said, "Hey, can we do some stuff on marriage? Because I'm kind of maybe he wouldn't say it out loud, like I'm drowning over here, but at least throwing it up." And he said, and I hate to refer third person. You said, Clyde, and maybe you might have to repeat it for me to remind me, but I loved it and I meant to write it down, and that was, people don't want to get in a mess or get into the mess because they're going to get messy. What was that?
Yeah, it's total. When we were going through the deal, and I was like, "Hey, this couple needs to do a marriage, seminar on marriage," and I didn't tell them what was going on, because you can't tell people what's going on because then they don't want to be around you, because then they get all messy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see.
And so they didn't want to do it, but then I find out about a couple months later that they're actually going through the same thing, but they didn't want to mention it. They didn't want to mention it because you have to shield yourself, because you have to act this way. As the Bible says, they are, clean on the outside, but inside they're full of dead man's bones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. What's that part about, if you're getting raped, you should yell fire. If you're getting raped, yell fire so they'll help you, because if you yell rape, they'll run away. That's the same thing. I could get brain cancer and they'd bring me flowers and cookies.
I'll pray for you.
But if you have a messy marriage with abuse, they forget you exist. They don't want anything to do with you. They shut you down. That's the truth. They can't handle it, because guess what? They're doing the same crap to their wives.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is my point where I was going with this, is that when you have a worldview that kind of forces you, in order for you to keep it erect, keep the scaffolding up, you kind of have to turn the other way when confounding information comes along to contradict it. Mm-hmm. So you have to bury your head in the sand on a lot of these things to keep them alive. And then when you get honest and that's this freedom. That's when the world opens up. But it applies to a lot of things. And so it's not just religion. So like, I think that religion is a immortality project to help us confront or to help us compartmentalize our fear of death. But there's other things. And I've talked about it over the last 6 months on the show. And it's kind of poignant for me right now. And that is romance. That romance is almost as fairy tale-ish as Christianity, in that it's driven by a need for the world to make sense, that just world hypothesis, So I need for us to be something more than just a dirt clod hurling through space, and so I'm going to create a narrative that God's in control, and He loves me, knows the number of hairs on my head, and all of this was made for me. And so I feel good about love and life, and I can get out of bed and because otherwise life is just horrifying. Well, a similar, fairy tale is superimposed over romance, over love. And that this person completes me, this person validates me, this person gives me my life meaning, or whatever. And that, just like the Christian bubble should and will someday be popped in most people's lives, I think this romantic bubble too, and And the roles that the hats that you guys wore, Bonnie and Clyde, with each other, and that's also been popped. And now, just like when we leave Christianity, those of us that did, we have to say, "Oh my God, how now shall I live?" I think that when we allow the romantic bubble to be popped, that we find ourselves in uncharted territory, and we now say again about this realm, how now shall we relate? Mm-hmm. I mean, can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, I can. There is, the romance and religion both have something similar. It places your value in who you are on other things. Like you're waiting for a man or a woman to validate you as a person, or you're waiting for God to accept you when you have the power the whole time to love yourself. And they rob you of that with the scriptures of shame and sin. Mm-hmm. So if you take away those scriptures and you begin to see humanity and yourself as flawed and okay, what the hell, we're messed up, let's keep going and work with what we got, right? Yes. But religion and romance keep us from the best parts of life because it takes away our own power. Mm-hmm. So when I say I like me and I'm in charge of my own happiness, I am in charge of Bonnie's happiness, and Clyde's in charge of Clyde's happiness.
Yeah, that's it.
Like today, one thing happened. My daughter is, today somebody called and asked her to babysit, and she didn't want to. I said, well, just tell them you can't. I walked in the room later, and she was texting all her friends to find a babysitter. I said, why are you looking for a babysitter for other people? It's not your job. Let them find. You're a people pleaser. You've taken on too much responsibility for somebody else's happiness, and she's been raised that way. Mm-hmm. And I see it in myself going, guess what? There's a boundary here. You can just say no and hang up the phone, sweetie. You don't have to fix things. Mm-hmm. And that's with each other, romance, religion. We can just say no, thank you, and best of luck.
Wow. I'm telling you. But just to, I mean, I remember my own romantic time when I met I love getting married, so I have several wives, but I have the current wife, and man, I loved the romance part. I did. I just felt that was a hype. I love imbibing that.
Even third time around?
Yeah, even third time around. In fact, it was the best. I thought. Yeah. But then eventually, the
honeymoon's over.
The flame kind of does, well, it's a pilot light, it goes back to a pilot light. But I love her more and more and more. I mean, I just love her because I don't know why. Because I do. Because I think I'm a better person when I'm hanging around her, to tell you the truth. But,
true.
But, and I love her so much that if she even says, this ain't working out, I'll see you. What am I going to say? No? I love her too much, to do that. Yeah. So I think we're in a good place. But don't you think you have to imbibe the intoxicant of romance just a little bit to enjoy it?
I think you do, but you also are aware that it's like icing on top of the self-love cake.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're not starving
for it. It's just bonus.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And you can't eat icing too much. You get sick.
The author you had on a few weeks ago with the book about the bucket with the hole in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I ordered that for my kids.
Oh, good.
And, you kind of be, like, one of my favorite things to say lately is be a fountain, not a drain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't look after anybody else until you figure out why you're awesome, why you're worthy of love.
Sure. It's the, as we say, it's the art of life, the art of living. There's an art to it. So you take a little of this and you take a little of that, but you don't get caught in some paradigm that's just going to down you, bring you down and mess you up, But it takes a while for people to get that.
Yeah.
Yes,
at least in the South and, in the Bible Belt, as you say, Clyde.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of belts around here, by the way. Because
Yeah.
we say we're in the Bible Belt in Tennessee, and the other people say, the buckle on the Bible Belt in, I don't know, Omaha or something,
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's all over.
Yeah. By the way, that's Jeff Bates that wrote The Little Bucket.
Oh, yeah.
We've had him on twice. Great guy.
He's a good guy.
Met him in person, one of the few.
Have you?
He's in Florida, but we met at ReasonCon.
Oh, super.
He's got another book coming out about zombies.
Yeah.
I mean,
kids love the
I have
zombies.
that in my Amazon cart, too, so I'm excited about
pre-ordered?
that one, too.
Well, I'm sure he's listening to this episode, so I bet he'll get a kick out of hearing that somebody, some stranger from the show, bought a book.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, just to sum up that thing, I mean, we're when we come from a place of strength rather than weakness, then we can engage in the same types of activities like awe and wonder at the universe, or getting chills, or even feelings of gratitude. You know, the things that sometimes religious people feel they've got the monopoly on. No, but instead of us wanting to praise God or give credit to God or give thanks to God for something, we don't believe in that God, but we can still be grateful.
Why does God need so much glory?
He's as insecure as the people who projected him into existence.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, he's God. You don't need all
No,
that,
he's not God. He doesn't
There's
exist.
no God. Okay, that's right. But you know what I mean. It just doesn't seem right. Yeah.
But the other thing is that we can engage in romance from a place of strength, from a place of agency. And I don't know if on a XY axis or a graph, that we could probably chart Bonnie and Clyde's relationship to where there was a crossing point to where they went from codependent, needy, identity, shallow, insecure, needing validation from the other, and then crossing over to where all of that is negated. Like, nope, you don't complete me. I'm already complete. I'm already valid. I already know who I am apart from you. And it crosses over into a whole new thing. And what they're still raising kids, they're still having sex, they're still going to work, they're still doing everything they did when they were dysfunctional. But now it has this agency and power, and you're much more. I mean, the reason that those people at the church, when you would share with them, hey, I'm struggling here, and they couldn't help you, they can't give to you what they don't have.
Correct.
And so now you guys have found it on your own, and as Bob has mentioned, and I just bear repeating, well done, and congratulations.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're now, taking on the same day in and day out existence, but with a completely different paradigm, with a completely different pair of legs underneath both of you, as far as strength.
But it's really fun because we're doing that, but we also are secret atheists. we can we walk around with our headphones doing stuff around the house. I'm like, did you listen to this so far? Did you listen to that so far? And we enjoy sending little memes to each other and ha, and secretly making fun of people when they say stupid scripture crap, It's like our own little club. It's kind of fun. That's why we're Bonnie and Clyde, hon. It is kind of fun.
I was going to say that in your email and in the way you've talked about today, I could pick up on that in your little town in the South where you're really kind of alone. Now, aloneness is one of the reasons this show exists, in that it's a bad thing, and it's a dangerous thing when you're lonely and you feel alone in this. And you guys, just like, I don't know what metaphor, but in the storm, you find the closest person you can to cling to, and the two of you have each other immersed in a world that is the opposite and doesn't know that you're not like them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's your little secret, and secrets in this context, can be a bonding thing. And I think that's what
it's the community. It's their community.
Yeah, you got a little community.
Very small, but very cool. Very cool indeed.
Well,
wow.
We have a Facebook group that's private, called the Private Support Group for Everyone's Agnostic Podcast, and it's international. It's global, and there's not that many. There's maybe 120 people in it, but it's a virtual community that I'll add both of you to if you're on Facebook.
Thank you. I would love that.
Yeah, and people will hear this episode, and and they'll meet you there, and it's at least another person to maybe, share with, and it's a really neat community. So I'll add both of you to
Yeah. Should we? I mean, I know we're just about done here, but I really would like to hear your take on hell, though. Do you ever worry about stuff like that? I mean, now I'm sure it's not it doesn't loom large as it used to. But what about it, Bonnie and Clyde? Who wants to start?
You want to go first? I don't believe in it. if it's real, then God's a jerk. I mean, hello. I'm like, why would I worship somebody who's acting like a turd? I mean, we don't need that much punishment. Not even Hitler needs that much punishment for eternity burning. I mean, it's just a stupid idea.
I don't know who said it, but the comedian on YouTube, there's an old comedian, I think he died. He said, George Carlin, maybe. He said, he created this hell where you fire, you burn, and hell and everything, and you burn and you burn and you burn. But he loves you.
It's ridiculous.
It's a crazy notion.
It doesn't haunt us at all.
It's controlling. It's Nietzsche. It's total. Sorry.
Nietzsche.
How do you say it?
Nietzsche. Yeah. Or
Nietzsche.
Yeah. It is controlling. You're right. In fact, I think that's the whole idea behind it. It's controlling.
Yeah.
Could be something that the Romans came up with. Who knows? I don't know if it's. I don't know too much about it, so I'm just going to shut up. But it's a crazy idea. It really is.
Yeah, and it's awful idea.
In fact, I was telling Cass when we were, when I drive over here, I drive by a church, and on their little billboard outside,
marquee.
On the marquee, it says, "Hot enough for you? Oh, you don't know hot." On the church, and it's like, my God, come on.
Exactly.
Well, how do you teach children? I mean, what do you, like, y'all are ahead of us. Like, what, like our kids. We have kids.
Yeah, kids are watching. Yeah.
And like, what?
I just say you ain't going to hell. Just do good, or bad crap's going to happen to you. I mean, if you want to have a good life, do smart stuff. And, if you just raising our kids in a home full of kindness, maybe they'll figure out that it's good to be kind.
But then when you go to a funeral, like, and they never say they're in hell. Like with the guy that killed himself or the guy that was an asshole, he's never in hell. The preacher never says he's in hell. Yeah.
I think it's just stupid. Yeah.
I've actually been to a church where the preacher did say,
really?
Yeah.
So this guy's in hell?
No way.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
No kidding.
He's the type of preacher that would use funerals to give altar calls, though.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Talk about speak badly of the dead. So this guy was an asshole, but what are you going to do? Come forward and receive Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
He's more of an asshole. The preacher who preaches the funeral, you're in hell.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make an atheist graveyard. And I want to call it the Society of Irreverent Corpses. And we'll have giant headstones with like middle fingers. And everybody can write their own freaking epitaph, like "Screw you all, idiots." And I think it would be a great thing to do.
Amen.
I'm all in.
Yeah, baby. Great.
A tombstone in the shape of a middle finger.
I love it. Now you're talking. Well, you guys.
We've got to go back and address that marquee, because think about that. Like, if they should be ashamed to say that in public.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean,
they think they're helping.
Yeah, it's like putting a gun to your head and thinking that that's a great way to motivate people.
Right.
Sick and wrong. All right.
It is.
Enough of that shit.
How
about a couple of things maybe about your personal life, your recreational life? What do you guys do for fun? What are your hobbies?
I listen to my favorite podcast called Everyone's Agnostic.
Good answer.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I love true crime. Another podcast I'm going to mention because I did their design work. It's the Drunk Ex-Pastors. They kind of somehow by them I found you.
Yeah, I know them.
Drunk Ex-Pastors?
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's Cass. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, they're great. And I do a lot of, I'm an artist, so I spend a lot of time in my studio listening to audiobooks. And I don't watch much TV.
She actually sells art. Like,
I do.
People buy her stuff. It's amazing.
What, paintings?
Yes.
No kidding.
And the painting thing came as birth from this freedom from religion.
Yes, that's another deal.
That's a whole other thing. I felt it was too selfish to pursue a career in art unless I painted like a freaking dove.
Well, and also it didn't populate heaven. It didn't contribute to the kingdom of God.
You're gonna laugh at me. I'm sorry this is taking forever, but listen, I used to have a blog called "The Artist Must Die," where I wrestled with my urges to create and how selfish that was. Whenever I was in the church, I kid you not. I shit you not.
My God.
My God.
The artist must die. Well,
No. The artist must live. It's very
she's
important.
flourished right now.
Yeah, now she's an artist. Exactly.
well, and we can't necessarily advertise your art without revealing your person, right?
Ooh.
Maybe down the road that'd be okay.
Maybe a part 2 for
maybe
whatever.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
My friends are too lazy to check out my website. I'll send it to you guys. I can
Okay.
put it.
Because I might like to buy some.
Well, and that
Sounds like great.
you also could share it on the private Facebook group because
That would be great.
everybody in that group knows not to share anything outside that group because of the confidentiality.
Yeah.
So.
But what a pain in the ass this is.
What about you,
Damn it.
Clyde?
For fun,
Or fun.
well, there's a thing called benchmark bourbon. And
Yeah, baby.
Also, bullet rye whiskey.
Yeah, right?
I like
Pretty
it
good.
when he's drunk.
No, that's moderation. The whole thing. Got to keep that. But
So did you drink before when you were a
no,
Christian?
did not. I was a virgin before we married. I was Jesusified, and then
So how old were you when the first time the alcohol touched your lips?
well, when Bonnie and I went on a honeymoon, and we
They had a free bar, all you could
It's
drink.
like, well, I'm okay now, I guess. And,
Yeah, that was
but then it was all right. I'm going to be the Jesus man and listen to John Piper and Matt Chandler and Timothy Keller and the whole Reformed Calvinist people and get saved people.
Mark Driscoll.
And
Yeah.
help save the world. And then I, bumped into this whole past thing of my own failings and stuff. And then Bonnie helped me kind of see with her patience and true love, which wasn't anything in religion. It was nothing with Christianity and stuff. Even though I still like the parts of it,
We'd have a beer with Jesus, maybe.
We'd have a beer with Jesus.
Maybe.
Yeah,
If he
a
was,
whiskey,
if he did not come out like
A little
Revelations Jesus, we will not have
a little
beer.
hunting.
No beer with Revelations Jesus, because he's like the last scene in Ghostbusters.
We got some good bucks down here.
But we would hang out with the one that was chill.
You guys. This is
But no, I
hilarious.
was joking about him being drunk. No, he doesn't. When he drinks, he's funny, and I think when he has like a 1 or 2 glasses of whiskey, he's
Kind of
really
like Cass in Colorado.
Just get happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Clyde. It sounds like your whole life you were kind of given and told what to be, who to be, and that hit a wall. And I think maybe the real you, almost like Bonnie was trying to kill the artist, and the artist was kicking and scratching to get out. The real Clyde was kicking and literally you were abusing others to get out of this shell or this force field that maybe you felt you were under. And now that you're out from all of external, and I when I say external, I include Bonnie in that, meaning Bonnie doesn't give you your identity either. You are emerging now as, and I know this is weird to say, but Clyde, and that's not who you are, but you're emerging as yourself, and I don't know, it just seems like how, number one, is that true? And number two, how does that feel?
It is true, and it feels great. It feels freedom, and I feel like I can live, and there's so much more to do, more to see, more to feel, and more to learn about freedom.
Well, and like you mentioned earlier, in a mockery way, you said that you couldn't listen to certain music, couldn't do this or that because it's quote unquote worldly.
Yeah.
Whereas now, as the homeless guy on the corner that I drive by every day on my way to work, I've become friends with. His name's Joshua. I'll especially if I'm passing by him and the light's green, and so I'm not actually going to stop. He yells out and he goes, "Hey, easy money!" For whatever reason, he calls me Easy Money, and I drive a piece of shit car, so I don't know where he gets that. But he says, "Hey, Easy Money, it's your world."
Yeah, it is.
And
Wow.
as opposed to you being afraid of the world is your playground now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good.
And when raising kids, I think it's important to jump into those hard topics with them straight up,
Mm-hmm.
and like wrestle through like questions of, everything from potential drugs, sexuality, choices in life. And instead of trying to, keep them in a little bubble where they don't want the world, show them the world appropriately for their age, and then just open the conversation about, I just feel like you embrace the world, you attack the world, you go out into it, and you talk your kids into wise thinking as you do, so they're not like so afraid of the city or college like we were, so protected in a small town. I think that it's our job to arm our kids with right thinking and then let them go. That's kind of how we see it.
Absolutely.
That's the way. Yeah,
that's what we wish we had, and we're getting it now.
Exactly. And my wife and I have done the same with our kids. What we wish we had, we're giving them. Yeah. And they have thereby taken off from a completely higher place.
Right.
Now, how's that worked out with like Cass? Like you got
I got 4 kids.
4 kids, and so how are they? I know I've listened to past podcasts.
They're all free.
Yeah, they are. There's an episode way back where I did with them, but yeah, they're 24, 23, 21, and 20. So we had 4 kids in 5 years, but well, here's the thing. As we're going to talk about things from reality, and we've mentioned several times about the flawed nature of human beings. I mean, it's unavoidable. Nobody's perfect and all of that. So if we're going to get honest and naturalist about it, their lives are hard, but they're not tempted or running to disillusionment and an opiate, or at least a philosophical opiate to bury their head in the sands. They do have better tools than anybody who has been brainwashed by religion. When I came out and they were preachers' kids, and I did ask them, I said, I know this is weird for you guys because I've enforced all our life with the most passion and the most sobriety. Like this was the most serious thing in the world to me, was Jesus, God, the Bible, the kingdom of God, evangelizing people, saving people from hell. And then for me to say to my kids, never mind, how traumatic was that? And they all just said, oh, we never believed it anyway. And there is, they were young enough that there's that, and they're smart. Their IQ's higher than mine. But they're also, there's something about, I don't know, the emergent generation or something, these kids coming up. I don't know. It just seems to be a lot more skepticism, or what I've called bullshit detection. They hear something and they just don't feel, they're less credulous about going, yep, that's got to be true. You just said it, so it's got to be true.
Right.
And there's a lot more cynicism and skepticism in them, and or at least my kids.
Yeah.
So their life's hard, but they're doing well. They've got a lot better tools than
hard workers. I can tell you that much.
They all work in the service industry. They work in restaurant, and they bartend and serve and wash dishes and cook.
Yeah. Well,
one
of your kids works in banking, but
that's what they put themselves through college. I didn't have any money for college, and they've all put themselves through college, and actually still are. 3 of them are still in school, but I don't know. To answer your question, Clyde, they're doing good, and they don't have any misgivings about God. I mean, it's completely non-issue. You could say they're apatheists, really, in some ways. They're not activists like me, and but. Actually, when it comes to barroom talks or sleepovers with friends or whatever, and the topic of God comes up, or even sometimes the way religion affects politics or affects culture, they will go for the jugular in some cases. I mean, if they feel like somebody's espousing something that's toxic, they're not going to lay down. They're all very articulate. I don't know. I could talk about my kids all day long.
That's true. Oh, they're good kids.
Well, Bonnie and Clyde,
what a show! What an interesting discussion.
Well, it's been very fun.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys coming on. What you got planned for the rest of the weekend?
We have to go to church tomorrow morning.
No way.
Because my dad is getting sworn in as a deacon at the Baptist church, so we're going to have to hold our noses and act polite and drink right when we get home.
Okay.
So I missed that part. Who's getting deaconized?
My dad is getting deaconized, and we just got to show up and play the game. But like I said, we have we can go to the liquor store today and fix that. Just kidding. No, not kidding. Yes, kidding. Yeah, kind of kidding.
You're kidding on the square, as they say.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm the first to admit that alcohol is an opiate for me that helps buffer the harshness of life, but at least it exists.
Right.
That's right. It really.
At least it's real. I know I've swapped one for another.
Yeah.
But at least it's real. And it obviously, I think, like Clyde said, it's got to be used in moderation or it'll fuck you up just like religion did.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
All right. Thanks for coming on, you guys. You're a fantastic couple, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you. And
Me too. I wish we lived closer. We'd hang out more.
Hey, we're going to come to Tennessee. We promised our kids to go to every single state on vacation before they get too big. And so we may just have to holler at you if we're headed that way.
Come on up and holler.
Okay.
Please
we
do.
will.
All right.
I love y'all's opening. I don't know.
That's what we
Love it.
We love you guys so much. You've been our friends in our heads for years, and finally get to talk to you is so awesome. Thank you.
It's our pleasure and our honor.
Delightful.
You guys have been great. Talk to you later.
Yes, y'all have a good weekend.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. Wow. As I was listening to Bonnie in particular speak, it reminded me of something you said. Religion should, if you're going to be a part of it, make it playful, make it fun, make it just, like Dr. Seuss. It's just myth and it's fun. And my gosh, she has a lot of fun with it. I mean, I really get that sense when
with atheism.
With atheism, but when she talks about religion, she has a lot of fun, They share little jokes back and forth and stuff. So I think it was have a beer with Jesus, when she says that.
Well,
I love that.
I think what you're picking up on is her paradigm, the world, the lens through which she sees the world, coming from her own personality, is comical.
Yeah,
and she
it
has
is kind of comical.
It in its truest form.
It is very strange. It's like, what? You're kidding, right? When you look at like Clyde said. He'll burn you in hell forever, but he loves you.
Yeah.
That George Carlin joke. Yeah. I mean, it is comical. Strange.
What they overcame, and I didn't get to mention it with them, but a part of her testimony when she was coming up and just that disappointment, I'm too far gone for Jesus.
Yeah.
One thing she mentioned I didn't get to chat with her about was this walk to Emmaus.
Yeah.
And that's a Methodist thing that.
What is even Emmaus? I don't know that.
Well, Emmaus is the road.
It's okay.
There after the crucifixion, there was a few days there where, and after the resurrection, and there was, I think in the book of Acts, there was a time when, Jesus was no longer in the tomb, but nobody knew where he was.
Right.
And there was, anyway, these two guys, I think Philip might have been one of them, were walking along, and a stranger joined them. And on their walk to Emmaus.
Right. And they didn't recognize him.
They didn't recognize him.
But it was
Jesus.
Yeah.
So, which the thing about, I think maybe the walk to Emmaus was kind of a turning point for Bonnie because it emphasizes grace. Grace in the biblical vernacular is kind of space to fuck up and giving yourself some grace, some slack.
Right.
Letting yourself be okay with being imperfect. In a way, grace is the only saving idea in Christianity, and it contradicts almost every other aspect of Christianity.
Yeah, and it's usually not about you giving yourself grace, but Jesus giving you grace.
That would be the main spin. But this is a case where maybe by way of Jesus has already given you grace, so
be like Jesus.
Be like Jesus.
Yeah,
go ahead and extend it to yourself because God loves you just as you are, and so can you. So it's like going to it's going through Los Angeles. It's going from Dallas to Los Angeles to get to New York.
Okay.
Just skip Los Angeles and go straight to New York. I mean, you don't need God to forgive you in order for you to forgive yourself. And that's, but when you're wrapped up in that and it's actually a part of your construct, your social perspective, and you do see yourself steeped in a world made by God, fallen from grace, sinful, needing Savior. And so, you have to have a sickness in order for you to want an antidote.
Yeah.
Or at least to think you're sick. And
Exactly.
so the gospel is only relevant to somebody who feels like shit or, feels badly about their self or their sin. So, yeah, when the gospel comes along and says, hey, God loves you just as you are and he forgives you for your sin, that's good news to somebody who feels sinful. And so that's what the walk to Emmaus was for Bonnie.
Okay.
And that's when she took off. But it's never, I feel like that even after you give yourself, you recognize that God loves me just as I am, the schizophrenic message of the Bible is that, well,
he doesn't.
Kind of.
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. No, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's
like,
fickle.
what?
It's fragile and fickle. And then, you get into this debate with yourself of like, well, I can't use grace as a license to sin, because I cussed or I lied or I got drunk last night or I slept with my girlfriend, and then so you're like, oh shit, I'm back in the bad graces of God. I've fallen out of favor with God, or there's sin in my life, or because I'm like, there's so much bad things happening to me. I wrecked my car, or I lost my wallet, or there's so many bad things happening to me. What's God trying to tell me? So you're in this mind fuckery gerbil wheel of trying to, am I in God's good graces or am I not, or whatever? And I don't know. I'm just saying that the walk to Emmaus and the concept of grace is the highlight of Christianity, but it is much ado about nothing in a way. It's like it's solving a problem that doesn't exist. That
Right.
you could just go ahead and cut yourself slack. You could go ahead and give yourself grace. You could go ahead and love yourself and then say yes to what it means to be you.
Yeah.
So much more efficiently.
Yeah.
Without the baggage
Without
of first
third party.
condemning yourself and then forgiving
Yeah.
yourself. Not just go straight to forgiveness and straight to just acknowledging what is, and getting back to what you noticed about Bonnie and Clyde's disposition is humor.
Yeah.
Go ahead and laugh at yourself. Christianity doesn't allow for that. This is sobering.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah, and high stakes. How you get this right or wrong a lot hangs in the balance. Whereas a naturalist, humanist, secular view of reality is we are scientific accidents hurling through space, didn't ask to be here.
Absurd. Everything's absurd.
We have natures and dispositions and likes and dislikes. Like, I like okra, you don't, or whatever. I mean, just we didn't ask for taste buds. We didn't ask for eyes that see certain things and go, I love the color green. We didn't ask for any of this. So I think at the end of the day, like, barring crime or tragedy or pain or conflict, the true perspective of what it is that we find ourselves in here with life is comedy. It's the most real and honest way to act. It's the right reaction to looking ourselves in the mirror.
Yeah, having a sense of humor
is going, this is insane. You're kidding me.
Yeah, that's right.
This is me. Honestly, it's kind of freaky. I don't know about you, Bob, but like every now and then, I don't look in the mirror often. Like I comb my hair quickly. I get out and get in. I'm quick about all of it. I don't spend any time in front of the mirror. I mean, I'm a narcissist, but not in that sense. And yet, last night, I was coming out of the bathroom and glanced into the mirror, was washing my hands, and every now and then, when I look right into my own eye sockets,
Yeah.
I'm like, who the fuck are
That's
you?
right.
I don't know that guy.
That's right.
Or if I see myself in a photograph or I see myself in a video,
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
I do that. I looked at myself and said, "My God, I look like an old suit." You know what I mean? I mean, I got to be steamed.
I got behind somebody in the airport the other day, and I could tell from the back of his head and the back of his body that he's kind of shaped like me, and even his hairline was kind of like me. And I thought, God damn, do I look like that? I think in my mind and my self-image of myself is
What are you,
so.
like, you're 17 or
No,
something?
I'm
or?
George fucking Clooney.
Oh, really?
I'm hot as hell in my own narcissistic mind,
Let me break it to you gently. No, you're a nice looking guy.
Yeah, but we just don't really know, and our first person, perspective that we look out of, and that anyway. The point is that I think Bonnie and Clyde's perspective of laughing and finding a way to laugh. I mean, this is an abusive situation they were in. I mean, they've been through hell and back.
Really some tough stuff.
And I think they've lightened up, and in fact, what's made them lighten up is that their baggage. All this
the religious stuff is
unneeded weight on their shoulders.
I've always said that. Yeah. I listen to these people and I think, my God, you're making your life so complicated. Why do you do that? Why, and that you can't get out of it. You have to stop, reset, and look at things and go through some shit before you get out of it.
Of all the critiques of Christianity that we go through as atheists, and that people get on and explain and say, oh, it's bad for this or bad for that. This is probably, this one that you make almost every week, this is probably the most practical and easy to get critiques. And that is, it's just so unnecessary.
Man.
And it adds so much drama that is completely unnecessary. Now, whatever structure, because people say, I take my kids to church to give them structure, whatever.
Okay, fine.
Whatever little good comes from it, you could get elsewhere. Like instead of going to Neiman Marcus, you could go to Kroger and get the same goddamn thing.
Yeah.
There's other ways to get the good from that thing.
Yeah.
But overall, it's so easy. Avoid it.
Yeah. Right.
Escape it. If you can, you can't. I mean, a lot of times you walk right into it culturally.
Well, and I think eventually you've got to say, like we always do, what? Wait a minute. That doesn't seem to make sense. You have to have a little sense of history, too. Like, well, where did this come from? And why do people think like that? And so it's that kind of stuff.
You got to have curiosity to even ask that question.
You have to have some curiosity.
And you have to have agency to have curiosity.
True.
And so if Christianity has robbed your agency from the get-go, especially if you got inserted into you as a kid, then you never get to the point of curiosity. You never get to the point of critical thinking.
Yeah.
So you're fucked. And until something catalytic happens.
The podcast happens, right? Until Bob and Cat. No, actually, look at all just like Bonnie said, all these new ways to learn, the podcasts and the videos. Just
the internet alone.
The
access to information.
Right. So that, I think, but you're back to this, you still have to have that curiosity.
To get you to our show.
And maybe you have to be in tremendous pain before you
That's
get
what I'm saying. Yeah.
So that's what happened. Yeah, I get it. Interesting stuff, man. Let's do it again. Wanna?
Yeah.
Okay.
Peace out.
Next week.